Hey family, how are you? My name is Zorina, and if you are new to my channel, I would really appreciate it if you would thumbs up this video, subscribe so that it gets out to everybody that needs this good word. And today I want to talk to you about walking with angels. And so I'm going to try to make this as condensed as I can, but it's going to I'm going to try to squeeze it all together. So grab yourself a drink, get yourself, maybe a little snack. This could be slightly long. So, let's see, where do I start? I have had several encounters with angels. And if you are familiar with the Bible at all, and you have started your walk with the Lord, and you're reading and you becoming more aware, you know that angels are spoken quite often in the Bible. There are angels that are, God sent, that are of God. There are angels, and that's what they refer to them as, that are of darkness, that are demonic, that fell, like a third of them fell when Satan was cast out. And so, so you have two forces. You have the light, and you have the darkness. I have encountered in my lifetime both of them. And I will say that um, angels that are here among us are typically looking like us, right? They are not, 10 feet tall with wings that spread 20 feet wide, with, this light that shines from them of the glory, because they have been, sitting with the Lord. Um, in today's world, of course, if you saw something like that, I don't know about you, but I would probably have an immediate severe heart attack. I'm like, so I appreciate the fact that they tend to come and blend in with us, but they are here to help us. And one verse of the Bible that really speaks to how there are angels that are assigned to us. So let me just back up just a slight bit. And I have mentioned this in previous videos, but the Lord speaks to me in visions as well as in dreams, and now even in numbers. And of course, I've mentioned you before. Um, I'm referring to, numbers that align to God's word, that aligns to a prophetic word that comes from the Lord. But everything that God does, the enemy mimics it and causes confusion. And so you have these angel numbers that are more of from the New Age, which can open doors to the enemy. So that is never what I am referring to when I refer to angels. So I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. On this channel, we don't play, we don't do anything in the New Age space. In this conversation, I will speak to that as well a little bit later within this video. So I would say that probably my first encounter, now that I'm, an adult, that I believe I've had, I was in the third grade. And, there has been angels that have been placed in my life, but it's so ironic that even at this point, when I think back to those occurrences, when I needed help, when I needed protection, those angels were there, but I cannot still to this day visualize their face. They, of course, had a face. This is in the natural form, but I cannot, for whatever reason, visualize a face. But in the third grade, I was born and raised in California, in Los Angeles, at the time of me being in the third grade, and I was walking home. And it was like, so we lived in like a whole row of apartment complexes. And of course, you have a lot of young families with a lot of children. And so we were walking home from school, several of us kids, And I was walking beside this little girl, but she was older than I was. She probably, I would say, probably was around in the fifth grade. I didn't really know her, but I knew she was from my street area, right? Because we all were going in that same direction. You either lived in one apartment or the other apartment. But we would walk through this very nice, they didn't, I wouldn't call it a subdivision, but a home, like a neighborhood. And the homes were really cute. They're really nice ranch houses with very nicely manicured yards, and it was very quiet. And it was what seemed to be a very safe place for children to walk through. This particular day, um, as we got almost parallel to this particular house, there was this man standing, in the driveway. And as we became, and there were boys and girls, both boys and girls of us walking. But as we came parallel, us that were more clustered as girls, he says, "Is there someone that can help me get in the house? I've locked myself out. Can you climb through the window?" And I remember taking one step and saying, "I can help you," because, I was little. And this little girl grabbed me by my hand and said, "Do not go there. That man can hurt you. Stop looking and keep walking." To this day, I promise you that that was an angel. Just thinking about it, what could have happened to me really still to this day kind of just makes me so grateful that I had that person that protected me, that gave me that moment of wisdom, because I was, young. I was so little, and I probably climbed through windows before because I was that little, and I didn't think nothing of it. I didn't know enough about probably being cautious of adults, and that they would harm me. So that was probably my first occurrence with an angel. 2 years later, I had another one. 1 year later, in the fourth grade, we were living in a new area still in Los Angeles. And this particular day, we were in a new area, and I was in a new school. And the person that was supposed to help me get home after school wasn't where they were supposed to be. And I was alone. And I didn't know how to get home. The school was new. It was my first day. Where we were living, it was very new to me, right? And so I wasn't acquainted with anybody, any students, the school, the teachers, neighbors, nothing. I was just completely alone. And, and after waiting so long, almost like the school emptied out, I eventually realized I had to start moving before it got any later. And I didn't know whether to walk left or to walk right. I did know the apartment complex name that we were living in. And I walked for a while, and what I realize now is that I was walking away from home, not walking towards, in the direction that would have led me to home. But I was walking in a neighborhood, and, it was a cloudy, kind of a wet, rainy day. And of course, there were no people out in the neighborhood. And I was afraid to knock on anybody's door, because, something could have happened to me, and no one would have known where I was last at, right? So thank goodness there was this older lady at a bus stop, and I walked up to her because I felt that she was safe, and I asked her if she knew where my apartment complex was, and she said, "Are you out here alone?" And I didn't answer her. And so she was familiar with the name and pointed me in the right direction and told me, to keep walking, this direction and then turn. And I eventually got home. I can't tell you, I can't remember the lady's face, but I believe with all my heart that that was an angel that was placed at that time to give me the guidance that I needed. So that was the first two times that I believe there was an angel that was there looking after me and protecting me when no one was there. Um, but I will say that the first time I ever heard an angel, did not see, and it was not in the form of a person. But at 13, I was, let's say, I was in a situation where I was outside at night and it was dark, and it was in a city that was not known for doing good. We will just put it that way, right? Not a place for a young girl, or even a woman for that matter, at night alone. But there I was. And so someone was trying to tell me, I needed to get home, or you need to leave. It's not safe. Where are your parents? And again, I started walking, but I didn't know really where I was going to go. So I'm walking and I'm kind of in my head thinking. And I get to this, and there's this huge intersection, one of those four-way intersections where they have the cement median, because you may not make it all the way across walking before the light changes. So it's a very huge intersection, and I'm at the light, and I'm pressing the button so that it will turn green, and the light turns green. And, I took that motion to move. I think I lifted my foot, didn't even complete the step, and I heard a very authoritative, all-encompassing stop. And I can tell you it was beside me, it was around me, and it was over me. But it did not scare me. But I stopped. I did not move. I put my foot right back down, and the light was green. And for whatever reason, I turned left, and unbeknownst to me, I realized then that what I was waiting for was approaching me. And if I had moved and crossed that street, or even moved into the intersection, I would have missed a God-given destiny moment for my life. And I know for a fact that that was an angel that was assigned to me, that had been walking along my life, and making sure that I was safe and protected. And that one was, I think, is the only time that I actually heard and not seen in a human form or any form. But I'm telling you, the stop was like it engulfed me. And so it just makes me think about when you imagine how big and how majestic an angel would be. That is where the stop came from. It came from up high, because I'm sure he's tall, he or she. And the authority in the no, not in the no, I'm sorry, stop. But it did not frighten me. Okay, so that's 13. I'm trying to get us, because I have so many of these. So 13. Then in that same year, probably 2 to 3 months later, I am still 13, and I am living with my father, and I woke up from a sound sleep. This is the first time that I encountered dark angels. So I woke up in the middle of the night from a sound sleep, not dreaming, not having a nightmare or anything, but woke up in complete terror. And if I can describe to you what that terror was, it was like there were demons in the room, several demons in the room, in the corners of the walls, on the floor, everywhere. Demons taunting me, haunting me. And I had never experienced that, didn't understand what I was feeling. And I was completely like horrified. Like I could feel like my heart had to be racing a mile a minute. I was horrified to stay in the room because it didn't go away. Closing my eyes didn't help. My eyes being open seemed like made it feel more intense. Um, and I was scared to put my feet on the floor to go get my father because I felt like whatever this is, it's going to grab me, right? And I sat there contemplating what to do, but all along becoming more and more afraid. I eventually grabbed my pillow, held onto it tight, because like any kid or any person afraid, you need that comfort. So I held onto my pillow tightly, and I went across the hall. And my father was asleep. I went to turn on the lamp, and he was like, don't turn on the light. But it was almost as if he was waiting on me or was already awake. It seemed like, I don't know, like he was aware. And I said to him, something is in my room. I'm scared. And he didn't ask me any other questions. He got up, he came to my room, and he didn't pray a whole simple prayer. It was a warfare prayer, and it wasn't long, but he prayed authority over that room. And then he said, all right, go back to sleep. And I'm like, really? But you guys, I as bad as I felt at the moment I woke up, at the moment my father said go back to sleep, it was like peace came over my room. And I went into the sweetest sleep, the deepest sleep, like it never happened. And so in the next morning, my father asked me, was I able to sleep? Was everything okay? And I said, yeah. I didn't understand that and what all that was. I'm pretty sure my father did at that time. And so that was my first experience dealing with the dark energy from demonic forces. But that was not my last time. Oh no. They have actually come to me a few more times in my sleep. And in such a way, the next time, so that was 13, the next time I had such a dream, I was probably 18. So I had this nice stretch, this nice gap. And then at 18, I had another dream that was so extremely vivid, so extremely real, and like all of my senses, I could feel, hear, and see it all still to today. And it was terrifying. And it was like a scene from Amityville Horror. And I was in a family member's house in the dream, which was really a family member's house. and and I recall before this dream, my father had been saying to me, I think you're going there too often. I think you probably, shouldn't go there this often, etc., etc. And these family members were older than I was a good bit, and he just thought that maybe the age difference wasn't good for me. Well, because they were family, I still went. I never told him until probably a few years ago, a couple years ago or so, why I really stopped. It was that dream. And although that it was very dark, oh, this dream was. probably the worst that, yeah, maybe the worst, because um, I could not get out. And the way that the dream ended finally was right before I felt like I was about to be engulfed and taken over by the house. I screamed, Jesus, and I immediately woke up. Whew, and that was very intense. And when I tell you, this family never saw me in their house again, and I never said why. But God probably had already been telling my father, and my father was sensing, and I didn't have a revelation of God and His word like that at that time, so I didn't see any harm. Right? I'm 18, I'm doing me, and but when I tell you, um, I don't play with the warnings. Okay, when I say I stop on a dime, I stop on a dime. There's nothing else I'm going to do. As they say, you ain't got to worry about me. I'm out. Because I'm the type, I don't even watch horror movies. I can't do roller coasters. I don't like that extra adrenaline rush. That is not for me. So I immediately stopped going around, even not really even going around those family members too much at all. I was very cautious after that. So that was 18. Um, so many, so many, so many, so many. So let me back up 1 year. At 18, before that happened, right at turning 18, probably a week after graduating from high school, a week or two of graduating from high school, and I had just turned 18, I got in a very serious car accident that probably was meant to take me out, right? But then you have to say, but God. And this car accident should not have happened. But the enemy was definitely hot on my trail from a little girl, like I mentioned when I was in the third grade. I could probably go a little bit more about things that were happening back then, but we're sticking to the angels. But this accident was so traumatic and hard, mentally, physically, all of that. But as I'm going through the motion of this accident, I'm seeing myself go across the lanes of the freeway. I'm seeing myself literally about to hit a back end of a car and going straight into the cement divider that is separating north and south traffic, right, on the freeway. And at this time, I'm living in San Bernardino County of California, about 45, 50 minutes outside of Los Angeles. And when I hit the cement divider, my car flipped over, slid across the 4 and 5 lane, and my hand was pinned to under the roof of the car. When I came to, and I could hear the glass and the metal, breaking, crashing, and everything, I didn't realize that I was flipping over. I didn't realize that that is what happened. Nothing but grace and mercy. I had no seatbelt on, and I was, in still the driver's side of the car. Of course, I'm not in the seat because I'm upside down. So, but I am screaming from the pain because I'm realizing my hand is under the hood of the car, the roof of the car, I guess, and I can't move, and it's hurting beyond you can imagine. And I recall seeing some feet and a voice said, and I screamed help. I saw some feet and a voice that said, I'm going to lift up the car. When I do, move your hand from under the car. And it was a man. Now, how he lifted that car, I don't know, but he did. I got my hand from up under there and I went to stand up and he said, "Don't stand." And of course, by then I passed out. And the next thing I recall was the paramedics and in and out of consciousness and going to the hospital. I never saw this man, probably from the mid chest up. I couldn't identify him at all. But I tell you that there was nothing but an angel that was at the right place at the right time. He was a truck driver. So he saw from back beyond up high. And I think my father may have met him and saw the entire accident. He pulled over his truck, which you can imagine to pull over a 16 wheel, is it 16 or 18 wheels, whatever, but pulled over the truck and helped me. Immensely grateful. So that is an angel at 18, demonic forces at 18. And then the next occurrence that happened that I can remember is when I am then in my, I'm probably in my mid 20s. Yeah, somewhere in there, about 25 or so. I'm in New Orleans, right? I'm in New Orleans for the Mardi Gras, and I'm meeting some of my husband's cousins that I was good friends with. One lived in New Orleans and the other was coming from California. And at this time, I don't live in California anymore. I am currently, at that time, I was currently living here in this state. And so while being in New Orleans, I had a dream. And the dream was a demon was chasing me at warp speed because I ran track in junior high and high school and was well known in my region. And, and I was pretty fast. I was quite fast. And I ran all the sprints, all of them, 100, 200, the relay, and the 4x4, all of them. This demon was chasing me down like he had been in the Olympics, right? And I'm noticing that the gap is closing. And I am just all elbows and knees, right? And the gap is closing. And I'm like getting extremely panicked that this demon is about to lunge onto me in my dream. And immediately I said, Jesus. I woke up and I was just like, what was that? Why was that? But we all know that this is pre-Katrina, that there are territories that demons are specifically at. There are regions and territories that they are at in some cities and states more than others. We all know that there is a lot of witchcraft and demonic stuff that happens in New Orleans. I was not aware that I was in Satan's lair. And I will tell you that the devil knew who I was. The devil knew that I was in his territory. If you have been marked by God and there is a promise on your life, even if you don't know it, you will see and experience things that other people don't experience. And I experienced, as you see, a lot of this so young, and a lot of times I couldn't understand it. I thought somebody put a spell on me, and I was like, what in the world? Why is all this? And my parents never spoke of things like this when they were my age. I never heard other people talking about it. And I always felt like it was too heavy to talk to anybody about. So for a while, I had to keep a lot of this stuff to myself. But I did, share a lot of those experiences, those demonic forces that would occur with my father. And so To this day, I've never been back to New Orleans, and I have no intentions. You know, hey, if you live there, if that is home for you, no disrespect. I just know that I heed warnings, and there are territories that are meant for certain people to go into. Now, probably, maybe, as I keep growing in the Lord, I could probably go in New Orleans and plead the blood of Jesus. But I'm telling you, I'd have to go in with a sword. I'd call on the angels and do everything, because there is still a force in that region. And because there is a mark on my life by God, they see me coming, and they don't play fair. That's what I'm trying to tell you. They don't play fair. Don't play with them. That is mid-20s. Let me hurry and get you going, because we all in the time zone. You got your snack and your drink, right? Okay, so let's speed this up a little bit. After that, then there were times where, as an adult, not long ago, which is a part of what pushed me into the Lord even more. And so on this journey, as God is redoing my life, He has given me a heart transplant. And that's a whole different video on how I even came, back home. I will tell that one a little later. But before I came, I was dibbling and dabbling, and I thought, if I do these, that's safe. So I had a few crystals. They're just stones. They're just rocks. God made rocks. They're natural. So I had a few of those that were specific ones that I selected that were meant to ward off evil spirits. Got to be more careful. Then I also had sage in my house that I was burning, and whatever with that. At the same time, I had these new lamps in my bedroom, and I bought those light bulbs, smart light bulbs. I bought these smart light bulbs, and I had them in the lamps, and I had them programmed on the app. The light bulbs are not a problem, but they became a problem. So the light bulbs, if you have them, they're not a problem. So that's not the point. But now I'm having these crystals in my house, and I'm doing the sage, and I'm getting a little too far into reading and digging into like some new agey stuff, right? But still, in my heart, in my soul, in my spirit, I don't go but so far, because I know there's a place of no return. But let me tell you, you can't crack the door open with the enemy. You can't peek. You can't give him an inch, because when I say he doesn't play fair, he will bust the door down while you still peeking in and bust you in the head. Don't play with him. And so what I learned from that, I had the light bulbs programmed, and at a certain time in the evening, once the sun went down, my lights would come on in my bedroom, and it'd have this nice soft glow, kind of a yellowish, moody glow. And then, 30 minutes before I would go to sleep during the work week, the lights would go off, right? Okay. And it always worked like clockwork. This particular night, I'm asleep, and I'm noticing that in my sleep, for whatever reason, I wake up, and the lights, both lamps, are blinking, this green color. And I'm in a deep sleep, and I'm like, both lamps. And so I go to reach for my phone to, turn it off with the program because I didn't want to, get reach and wake that much up. So I went to grab my phone, and when I touched the phone, the lights stopped. Okay, and I fell back to sleep. This happened again. Then there's a TV in my guest room that started just randomly coming on, and the lights would flick, and it was always around I call it the bewitching hours, right? When the devil walks the earth, around 1:30, 3:30 in the morning is when, he likes to play games. And so this is when this activity would happen in my house. And it got to where it was a little bit coming too often, becoming very odd. Now, I also had these smart lights in my bonus room in 2 lamps that never did that. It was always in my bedroom. At this particular time, I'm telling my father about this, and I remember he got real serious. He said, Zarina, I think you need to pray over your house. If something's going on, you need to pray. And immediately when he said that, it was like a light bulb moment went off, and I thought back to the crystals and the sage and these things that were going on in my home. And I quickly got off the phone with my father because my house was starting to scare me. Like, this stuff was happening a little too often. TVs coming on and lights in the middle of the night flickering on and off. And it was just, woo, it was like a poltergeist moment in here, right? So I then, got off the phone with my father. I took those 4 light bulbs out from the bonus room, my bedroom. I took the crystals and the container that held the crystals, the sage, any and everything that was in my house that could be remotely associated. I had this necklace on this leather rope that had a crystal on it. I grabbed that thing, even though I hadn't been wearing it. I took that also, and I put it in a bag. I got a hammer and I broke up the light bulbs. And the light bulbs probably was, would have been fine, but I just didn't want nothing to do with it. And I didn't want anybody else to get a hold of those light bulbs either. I didn't throw them in the trash on my property. I got in the car and I drove them to an apartment complex where they have the big dumpsters, and I threw it there. But before I left my house, I opened up the windows in my house, and I put on praise and worship music on every TV in my house so that it would be going off at the same time. And once I got that bag thrown away, I came back home and I walked every inch of my house, the closets, the bathroom, opened up shower curtains, doors. And when I say I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, and I let the music just play, and I let the windows stay open so that anything that was in my house would get out, okay? And I did have to do that prayer a few times because of that TV still occasionally would pop on. So that situation happened. There was also around the time that I started getting closer to the Lord, was that was one time. And then around this time, after I got rid of all this stuff, and now I'm getting closer to the Lord, but not quite there yet. He's starting to work on me, and he's starting to, my eyes are starting to open up. This particular night, I'm sleeping really good, not dreaming. And I will be honest, I've never really been much of a dreamer. So although when I had these dark dreams, those were probably the only time I can't recall really dreaming more than those. And so in this particular situation, I was sleeping sound, and this was not that long ago. And I woke up from a sound sleep jerking my foot because it felt like a hand with claws grabbed my ankle and scratched. But as I felt the cutting of my flesh, I jerked my foot. And you could not have told me that this cut wasn't down to the white meat or the bone. That's how sharp it felt. And I immediately threw the covers back, and it's about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, right? I threw the covers back and I'm looking for blood. There's no blood. I'm trying to look at my ankle and I can't see anything. So I get out of the bed and I turn on the bathroom light and I'm looking at my ankle. There's no cut. So I pulled all the covers off the bed and I'm looking down at the foot of the bed, thinking, what is in this bed? Like, what could that have been? And then I sat there for a minute and it dawned on me that what that was a demonic force that had grabbed my ankle. And all that was, when I say I got close to the Father, you know, that was like, that's when you start calling Daddy. Where are you? Somebody come help me. This joker tried to snatch me out the bed. Like, the audacity. You guys. So that situation happened, and that has been in less than 2 years. That was the last major demonic force type dream. That wasn't a dream. Well, I guess it happened while I was asleep. I didn't dream anything. I felt something that had happened to me. There was another one that had happened before that I skipped. I'm going to try to fast forward you because, you know, I want to leave you with at least a positive one. Goodness. So I did have some more angel encounters along the way, and I'm trying to keep us, goodness gracious. Let me tell you about this one. So I go out to run some errands, and I ended up going to this restaurant because I was hungry, and it was really packed at this restaurant. I go, and now I am in with the Lord. We 10 toes deep in it, right? Team Jesus. And so I'm just minding my own good business. I'm like, I'm hungry. I don't feel like cooking. It's a Saturday. I'm going to go over here to this restaurant, and they always have like this really good salad or this salmon and mashed potatoes meal that I like. So I was going to sit at the bar, but it was so packed, and there was a seat way down at the end between these two ladies and this gentleman. So, you know, I asked if the seat was taken. They said no. The ladies grumbled because they had to move over a little bit, but, you know, I just kind of, you know, ignored that. The gentleman was sitting there and he was kind of minding his own business. I sat down, and now the ladies were sitting to my right, the gentleman was to my left, and the ladies, you know, they were, you know, the typical kind, and I hate to say this, but a little bit hateful. And so I, for the most part, just ignored them. They did end up eventually, you know, speaking a little bit to me. I spoke back. But the gentleman kept catching my attention because he was not looking really at his phone. He wasn't talking to anyone, and he wasn't really engaged with what was going on the TV. And it was something about his demeanor that kept catching my attention. And I was like, I noticed that he had on like a suit, like a blazer with matching slacks and you know, a button-down shirt, no tie. And it wasn't that I was finding myself attracted. I was finding him curious. I was curious about him, and I didn't know what I was sensing, right? And then there was one time I saw his phone kind of lit, and I saw that there was a family on the phone, a woman with some children on the phone. So I was like, okay, so he's a married man. I don't remember his finger or what have you. But there was something about his disposition that still had my attention. And the game was playing on the TV, and he wasn't really paying that attention like a lot of men probably would. and he wasn't really on his phone. So he was there before I got there. He was eating a salad. I ordered me some fish tacos and a glass of wine. And after he finished his salad, he ordered the fish tacos, right? And I'm like, no big deal. That doesn't mean anything. But I couldn't stand it no more, right? I'm like, I'm trying to feel this guy out. Like, you good? So I said, how are you doing? And he said, I'm good. He said, how are you? I said, I'm good. I said, I'm doing good today. And there was no more conversation. Like, he wasn't trying to engage really. I didn't feel that he really wanted to engage much. There was a gentleman that eventually came that was sitting to the other side of him that was trying to talk to him, but he wasn't really in that space of communicating much, I could tell. But not mean. And when he talked to me, when he spoke back, he had this very articulate normalcy about him. And so that kind of made me go, oh well, maybe he's just having a moment and don't want to be bothered. I get it. So I'm finishing up my meal. I finished my glass of water, glass of wine, had a little bit of water. And as I'm wrapping things up, he says to me, is that your ticket? And I'm looking and I'm noticing there was one there. There's another one over to the left. And so I picked it up, making sure that it wasn't his. And I said, yes. And he said, if you don't mind. And he picked it up and he took it and he says, I'd like to pay for your meal. And I said, no, you don't have to do that. I said, there's no worries. I can, take it. And he said, no. He says, because you spoke to me, I want to pay for your meal. And there was something about that hit my spirit. And I remember I just stared at this man, the side of his face, because he was looking forward. And I'm looking at him like, because you spoke to me. Now, it doesn't seem magical, but for whatever reason, it hit my spirit. And I asked him, do you normally come to the bar and pay for people's meals? And he says, no, I don't. He says, but, the next time you're out, pay it forward to someone. And I says, I will for sure. And I says, well, at least let me tell you my name. And he says, no worries, there's no need. And I says, well, what's your name? And he said, Michael. And the bells in my spirit is just going off. And so I felt odd just eating and leaving, and I'm not paying or doing anything. And he literally took the bill. And I says, well, can you please let them know that you're taking the bill? I don't want them tackling me at the door. He said, no worries, I'll be sure to let them know. You guys, I didn't hardly make it to the door walking out of this restaurant, and the Holy Spirit came on me so heavy that I felt like I had bricks on the bottom of my feet. And I remember saying, just let me get to my car before I just have a meltdown, because I'm saying, Lord, was that one of your people? And when I said, is that one of your people? It was like the Lord answered me and said, get used to that. And Lord, when I tell you, I barely made it to the car before the waterworks happened. That was and I've been out with men that have paid for my meals, so that wasn't a new thing. This was a new thing. This encounter was a new thing. And the man was there after I left. He was there before I got there. He was there after I left. And I know that angels blend in to look like us. I believe that angel knew that I knew who he was when he said, because you spoke to me. And because my spirit is very sensitive to the things of the Lord and what's going on. And then when he said that and I just stared at him, I think him and I both knew, but he would not look at me in my face at that moment. And when I tell you, it was the longest walk to my car. And I was like, Holy Spirit, just let me get in the car before people think that I'm, somebody that died and I'm out here in the middle of the parking lot snotting and crying. But it really blessed me, and it blessed me so much. But I just want you all to know that you are not here alone, that there are angels assigned to your life that is constantly looking over you to make sure you're okay, protecting you as well as, comforting you, and at times just wanting you to know that they acknowledge you, they see you, they are here for you. And, one of the numbers that I've been seeing regularly that I will share with you is 911. It has a dual meaning, but I will tell you it references the Psalms 91. And, in verses 11 and 12, it reads, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone." And, and there are several verses of the Bible that speaks of angels. And let me see. One that I love so much, and this is when Jesus is about to go on the cross. And, Peter was a hothead. So Peter was like, what y'all not gonna do is hang my partner here. Like, he has done nothing wrong. So he took his sword out and cut the man's ear off, right? Peter and Jesus was like, Peter, stop it. And he says in Matthew 26:53, "Do you think that I cannot appeal to my Father, and he will at once send me more than 12 legions of angels?" And so for every story that I have told you, God has come to my aid. God has been there, even in those dreams that I told you, that when I felt like I was about to be taken over, I would say, even in my sleep, Jesus, and the dream would end and I was okay. You have to always, and even in my car accident, me saying Jesus before that impact and then that angel coming to help me. I just want you to know that we are walking amongst angels. But don't take it lightly that there are also demons that will come also, especially if God has marked your life. So it is another reason why I now, walking in the Lord, guard my eyes and my ears heavily, because I know how important it is to close the gates and to stay and abide with the Father and stay in his word, because his word is my shield. It is the sword that I need to defeat the devil. And the blood of Jesus is what I plead over my life. And I am always charging angels of protection around me and around my loved ones. All right, you guys. Woo, that was a lot. I know this is going to probably be hopefully the longest video that I will do, because I did not tell you about a few other ones. I just, there's just been a lot of these occurrences that I've had in my life. But I'm going to definitely end you with that. You can do a search on angels in the Bible and you will see verse after verse after verse where it speaks of angels. And angels, there are angels that are messengers. There are angels that praise and worship God. That's in Isaiah. The messengers is spoken of in Genesis 22:11 through 22. And then there's angels of protection in Psalms 91:11 through 12. And there are angels that carry out God's judgment. 2 Kings 19, 35. So there, and I could just keep going on, but I just want you to know that you need to give your angels something to do, because you have angels. If you are a child of God, utilize your angels. We don't pray to them. We worship the Father, but we have authority to send angels out to help us, to go in front of us. And, and they will listen, but you have to know that you have this authority. Whew, that was a lot. All right, you guys. If you are still here, God bless you. I appreciate you. And until the next video, be at peace. All right? Have a good one.